I am a African-American male with 3 masters. I'm a veteran. And yet every day I still have to prove myself. Because for me to be real, I'm appearing as an angry Black man. So I have to talk a certain way in certain institutions. In order for you to hear my truth, to really understand me, every day when I wake up, I have to be 2 or 3 steps better than everybody else. Because once I slip, the tape that you were played when you were growing up about Black men comes into play. Well, there you go. Right? And so every day I have to fight this acceptance. And so you might ask, well, Derek, how do you do this? Great question. I do it because my armor that I wear every day, I'm prayed up. Because if I wasn't prayed up, I would be a statistic, right? I would be the one that if you talk to me, I will be going off on you. Now, me and Miss Deb and Dr. Michelle, we were laughing that sometimes you get to a certain age and you would tell people, ooh, it's good to see you because I'm saved. If I wasn't saved, I'll cuss you out right now. But see, this is what we have to do. So when we go to work and we come to De Anza in the institution, we come to work happy. We come to work 30 to 45 minutes ahead of time. We stay late to do our work, right? All because we're trying to show you that, hey, we earn the right to be here. And even when we earn the right and we're sitting here at the table like we are now, there's many that are still saying that you're not worthy. Or my favorite is, how'd you get here? History shows that we're still breaking ground as the first Black to do this, the first Black to do that. You want to know how it impacts me? It's rough. It's tiring to have to continue to put this work on and do this. But I don't give up. And the reason why is because the path that has been laid for me, that's been paved, was done by my ancestor. So it's upon me to continue to travel that road so I can reach back and grab the next person. And I'll stop there and let Dr. Michelle come.
Ooh. Ooh. Ooh, you know what? You have said so many things that have been in my mind, and both you and Miss Deborah both. You know, I have to kind of take a little step back and look at this, because I think they've really brought so many important aspects and elements of being Black in America forward and really getting in there. But when you think about it, and I said this in another meeting, some of you may have been in that meeting before, every single American or even worldwide institution has been influenced and built around anti-Black racism. Every single one. If you think about medical, educational, governmental, I mean, I can go on, I can name them all, right? They've all been built around anti-Black racism. And the notion that Black people are not fully human, not fully capable. We saw the medicine wheel earlier, and that Black people don't really have the emotional, mental, spiritual capacity to be fully human. And it's just mainly our bodies, and our body, the purpose of our bodies is to be for the use of other people and their needs. Mm-hmm. That has been sort of an ongoing, and that started in slavery from the second we stepped off that slave ship here. And we're put on an auction block and sold like animals. When I think about it, it makes my blood boil. The horror of it all. And we all have seen Dr. DeGroove's presentation from Africans being captured and brought to slave castles, and then brought in these ships in conditions that are so humane we wouldn't even put animals in, and then brought to the US and the Caribbean and other parts of the world to be slaves. And the fact that laws didn't even give us humanity. We were 3/5 of a person. Thinking about what my ancestors have endured to be here, and the fact that we're still here speaks to and is a testament to their strength and their power as people to resist systems designed to destroy them. And these systems are still here to destroy us. And being here and being in a position that's privileged enough to be able to look back at what my ancestors went through and know, and for them to know, and I know wherever they are, I believe they can see and hear that we here are standing on their shoulders and have benefited so much from all of their sacrifices. How do I feel? A lot of days pretty pissed off, angry, frustrated, sad, stressed out, anxious, depressed. But at the same time, I'm going to stubbornly hold to the fact that I know that I was created by God and all of my people were created by God and every person was created by God for great things. And that we are capable of great things and have done so many great things, even when all the odds were stacked against us. The laws, the policies, everything against us were stacked, everything was stacked against us. And yet we still were able to be the first and to achieve and to succeed. And it makes me incredibly proud to be a Black woman, to be a Black person, because I come from powerful people. You know, when you have systems all designed to destroy, all but destroy you, and yet we have continued to press on in spite of all the things that we continue to see. And many people, you know, are just starting to see these things starting last year. Many people just woke up to the fact that Black people have been going through these things for the last 400 plus years here and worldwide as well. And if you look at Africa and how Africa is being carved up and been exploited over the centuries as well, as Black people, oh my gosh, we've been through so much and still continue to go through so much. Feeling negated a lot of times, feeling misunderstood, and going back to what Derek was saying about, you know, if I have a situation and I'm upset about something, I have to be careful lest I be labeled the angry Black woman, right? I have to mind how I interact in certain situations. Being told, oh, you're being so sensitive about this, and not understanding that so much of what goes on, there's a lot of, you know, certain places there's very overt racism. But here, what I've experienced being born and raised in Silicon Valley and San Jose, so much subtle racism, very subtle, a lot of microaggressions, a lot of very hidden types of and covert types of oppression and racism. And usually hiding behind some sort of other system or process in order to visit that kind of racism on me and other Black people. It's maddening, because on one hand you wonder, am I crazy for thinking this? Am I, you know, maybe I'm exaggerating, but you really know, and you're knower what's going on. You understand, I understand, but it is just really, really hard to even describe to someone who doesn't live in this skin. I'll just put it like that. It's almost like a horror movie, where there's just a lot of elements to it that are really strange. And, you wake up every single day and you have sort of the same kind of things happen to you all the time that are not good things, right? It's just, it's really hard to explain. It's really hard to even be able to describe the feelings that this creates. But at the same time, I'm so glad to be a Black woman. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of my history, my culture. I'm proud of my ancestors and what they went through. And I'm proud of my Black people, including some that are here today, because I know they're survivors just like I am. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Ooh. Ooh. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dr. Lulu Burns. Oh, I appreciate that. And I wanted to check to see, Nicholas, are you hearing us, and can you want to chime in here on that first question?
Okay. My thoughts and my feelings on this racism and how it shows up, I would say just watching and seeing how Black oppression became a racket. Those things kind of really tell me that, you know, it's deeper than just, you know, the surface level, to where, you know, it's deeper than just, you know, getting people together and saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to be racist towards you, or we're not going to oppress you. It's deeper than that. It goes, you know, to the very fiber of this country. You know, every piece of our culture has been commodified, and, you know, at the same time being purposely excluded from any type of wealth building or any type of, you know, legislation that would actually protect us, because, you know, we've been under attack for 400 plus years in this country. And, you know, it seems like, you know, it seems like, like we keep bringing up and kind of reliving, you know, this Black oppression in this country. And it's been going on for decades, but for some reason, nobody seems to know how to actually make it stop, you know? So with me, I feel, you know, as a Black man, you know, if you're not charged up in this time, then I don't know, you know, what's going on, because it feels like now it's like like they're going to overhaul, trying to eradicate us. That's how I personally feel. And, you know, they're obviously starting with, you know, the Black men and children and women that, you know, aren't economically, you know, able to actually, you know, fight back, you know. So I just feel like it is very, very difficult to actually, you know, speak on this without getting just, you know, just completely just infuriated, you know. Like right now, it's really hard for me to really, you know, talk about this type of stuff, because, you know, I see it, but it doesn't matter how much I say that I see it. It seems like nobody's listening, because, you know, nothing is actually happening, you know. So, you know, just seeing how this George Floyd, this Derek Chauvin case was handled, and how, you know, and the media, and how the actual world looked at it, and how, you know, just the whole attitude of, hey, you know, like just the thought that this guy might get off for murdering, you know, a man on camera, you know, that the way that society handled it kind of really made me, you know, just really enforced my mission, you know. And my mission is to actually help uplift and get us out this position that we're in. So that's how I feel about it. I mean, I can, you know, I can tell you so many things that, you know, about this, you know, system, you know, and how it's, you know, been designed to exclude and keep, you know, us at the bottom perpetually. That kind of just, you know, yeah, like I said, just charges me up. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Nicholas. Super appreciate you pointing out, because what you're naming there are the things that we're hearing now more about these days. They're not new, but at least the message about structural racism, you know, all the things that are built into the society that have these impacts and outcomes. Thank you so much for speaking to that and bringing that out. I want to say, Chet Kari, you know, we've got maybe 2 minutes if you wanted to chime in on this question.
For sure, yeah. Well, like I said, I'm the youngest here, so usually my things doesn't in chronological, you get it. Yeah, for me, you know, specifically, I'm not just Black, I'm also Filipino, but in a funny way, you know, like you just kind of remember that both of those places, both what would you say, places of origin are colonized now. So that intersection, even though it's confusing, is kind of the same. And because I'm learning today that same thing is happening in the Philippines today with what happened with westward expansion and the Native Americans.
Mhm.
Yeah. But just me, and in my life, I think the thing that's the tragedy that's alive in me is just wondering how it was even possible for me and my family to sort of forget, right? Both my parents, in some ways you could say, are the lucky ones, the more successful. My mom and dad both have jobs here in the Silicon Valley, and we consider ourselves lucky to be in America, be working for these people, to be making a good living here. But that's such an irony, right? Something I didn't quite see until now. And all I have to say from me is just that made growing up very confusing, especially with all of the, like, even though I went to Homestead High School here in Silicon Valley, not too bad a school and everything, but subtle things, the subtle experiences, people would make jokes about the stereotypes they hear about Black people. And I'm like, well, I'm right here and I'm none of that stuff. So you got the wrong guy. But yeah, that sort of stuff.
Thank you, Kari. Appreciate that. So this is, I want to actually be responsive to the medicine wheel and to the physical part of the medicine wheel. So I want to give us right now 5 minutes. I want a 5-minute bio break, and bio means, restroom. It means drinking water. It means taking a few deep breaths, whatever it takes for you to attend to yourself. So 5 minutes break. We'll be back then at, I guess it'll be 3:41. Okay, and we'll go to the next question. Thank you. The external, the lies and the negative stereotypes that have been told about us. When we grow up in a society where we're immersed in that, we take them in and start to believe them as if they are true ourselves. And so what is the impact of that? How does that show up? Not only in your mind, but again, in your body, in your heart, in your spirit.
Well, that is something that, as a Black woman, as a Black person, I've experienced. I know so many other people have experienced people from our community, from our culture, that demonstrate internalized depression just in terms of how they view the world, how they view other Black people, and even how they view themselves. I think you can't live in a country or society that is so full of, I'd say, racism, hatred, mistrust of people who look like you, and at some level not absorb that. It is like a constant mental, spiritual battle to fight that and to push back against that. Some people may not have the strength. Some people may have had certain experiences. Some people may have just started believing what they're seeing, hearing, being told all the time, being treated as all the time, and then look at other Black people in the same way, and are not able to fight back against that kind of pressure. And what does it look like? It looks like, again, mistrust toward other people. It looks like not valuing the lives of other Black people, not valuing your own life as a Black person. It is actually demonstrating white supremacy toward other Black people when in positions of power, being willing to work with people who are in white supremacist systems and running it from that perspective, and being someone who's willing to be co-opted to do negative things to other Black people for their own reward and their own benefit. It looks like, to me, I don't like, and I know this is a debate in our culture, but I hate the N-word because that's what slaves were called. And I don't like the use of it. I know there's a lot of debate and a lot of different opinions about that, but that's my own personal opinion, right? It really is engaging with other Black people from a white supremacist perspective. That is just my definition. And it's hurtful. It's like the deepest kind of wound you can ever get. It's the deepest kind of wound when someone who looks like you visits something upon you that's hurtful or in some way works against you for their own benefit. That is the deepest, that's the deepest wound. We talk about microaggressions being 1,000 tiny cuts. That's like a stab wound to the heart when someone does that. And to your spirit, it's spiritually devastating. So I'll turn it over to one of our other panel members to speak in their own truth in that.
Yeah, and I want to invite those that are moved to speak to each question, not necessarily everyone having to answer everyone, just so that we can get to all of the questions, but whoever's moved to speak to this one, please.
The imposter syndrome. What you have is a person of color at the crossroads. And the crossroad is, can I be Black? Can I truly be Black? Despite my height, despite my weight, despite the way I comb my hair, despite my accent, can I be accepted as being Black? Or because of the tape that's being played of how I should be, right? Do I move forward and be someone else and try to assimilate with another race that has put their foot on me to be accepted? So do I bleach my skin? Do I wear contacts? Do I speak like I have went to bed reading Webster Dictionary? Do I dress like Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Will I be, that's what you're talking about, right? You're talking about Black people who are at that crossroads and 24/7 their skin is Black, but in their mind, they're thinking, this is holding me back. And I need to find another way to make it out. And so I don't associate myself with those people over there. These are my friends right here, right? But I thought you grew up in, no. I didn't grow up in Oakland. I grew up in Piedmont. I didn't grow up in San Jose. I grew up in Cupertino. So what you have is internally, this person is trying to walk away from who they are and will change everything. I saw it when I was in the military. People would say they were from California, but they had to say something that was familiar that people knew. Oh, I'm from San Francisco, even though they was from somewhere else. Because if you said anything else, they're like, what, where is that at? So that's what you get, is that pressure. And then at that crossroad, you have a choice. Do I fall into what they want me to be? Or can I just be me and love me for what God has made me?
Wow, thank you, sir.
So I'll just piggyback on Michelle and Derek, and I'm going to kind of take it in a, not in a different direction, but an extension. Internalized racism. In my daily travels in the community where I live, there are some Black people who want to prove to white people that they're just as good as they are. So to them, that means that they assimilate themselves into that culture. They take on the language of the oppressor. And that's their affirmation to themselves that they have value. And I'm just going to leave you with this in case you're a little bit confused about what this might be like. I'm going to give you some examples, and you might know these people. The Stacey Dashes, Tim Scott, Ben Carson, Clarence Thomas. Examples of Black folks with an estrangement from their history.
Thank you, Deborah. Well, yeah. So Nicholas or Kari, do either of you want to chime in on this question before we go to the next one?
Yeah, I wanted to piggyback off of what Deborah said. Another one is Candace Owens. Internalized racism, I feel like that's one of the hardest obstacles that we face, just because it's not just on the outside, it's on the inside of how we look at ourselves personally. You know, like Derek was saying, you know, do I have to act like this? Am I too Black? Am I too this? Am I too that? You know, those are battles that you deal with literally every second of the day when you're around other races and stuff. And, you know, my whole take on it is, you know, as a Black man, my image is already, you know, in the mud, you know, so why not just be yourself anyway? Because they're gonna hate you regardless. And that's just how I look at it, you know? So I would say the internalized racism piece is definitely one of the hardest, not just because of, you know, it being, you know, inside of us, but also dealing with, you know, others in our community, like Deborah was saying, you know, that are actively kind of working to our detriment. And these are the people that are in the forefront. These are the people that are so-called leaders. These are the people that, you know, other groups look to speak for the entire, you know, Black diaspora. And I think that that is a problem that is so hard to tackle because, you know, this system is, you know, it's not worth anything to be Black unless you're dead, you know. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate those words. Kari, anything you want to chime in on with this topic?
Yeah, just a little bit. First off, just to add straight on to what Nick was saying, like, yeah, dead or worse, exploited, and all the number of ways that that suffering is just kind of sucky, you know. Just to the part of internalized racism, you know, I think as a kid, it's so awkward when you get taught racism for the first time and you're like, oh yeah, that's not at all, right? The belief that there is such a thing as a superior race and yada, yada, yada. It's like, yeah, no, I get it. That's stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you believe that first off? And then why would you treat people like they're less than, right? And like I said, I went to like Cupertino, Sunnyvale area schools, right? And so it's a bit of a mix of everything but Black, basically. So like I was very much fish out of water there. But you know, there's white people, but there's also like Asians, Indians, Middle Eastern people from those backgrounds, and like it's funny to watch how some people will take that very simple thing, racism doesn't make sense, but then they'll grow and it'll change because it changes into stereotypes. And then it changes into thinking that those stereotypes are real. And then it changes into treating people differently based on those stereotypes. And all of a sudden, like the same outcome that was very simply seen as bad at the beginning has evolved into, well, just a more complicated of this version of the same thing. And that's a very broad and abstract description of it, but like, it's weird seeing my friends like become those types of people, right?
No, thank you. Thank you for naming that, Kari. I mean, I thought it was spot on the way you were just describing how that process can work. I appreciate that. And I just want to give folks a heads up that we're gonna take maybe another 10 minutes of diving into the questions in this format, and then we are going to break into triads, and we're going to have some question prompts for you to give you a chance to interact in small groups there. So that's coming, and so we're just trying to hold the balance here. And I knew this was going to be deep, and we're going to want time for this. So I'm just wondering, like, for the next two questions that we have, maybe there's a way that we can speak to both those questions. The first one is like, how do racist attitudes, assumptions, beliefs, behaviors toward other communities of color show up within your own community? You know, and how does this impact you and your body and your heart and your spirit? And likewise, what is the impact of the racist attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, and actions that you see from other communities of color on your own community? And what is the impact of this on your body, your heart, and your spirit? Again, in those worst moments, and then just when you see it and you experience it every day, in and out of your life. So maybe we can try addressing both those questions. Yeah. Who would like to start off with that one?
So you're gonna combine them both, huh?
Well, do what you're moved to speak to. Speak to what you speak to.
How it shows up is like this. The African American community, and first, that was something that was given to us. We didn't call ourselves that. We're Black. But Anglo-Saxon needed something to say politically correct and divide us all up, so they named us African American. So we'll leave it at that. What we have is the other communities, the other races, right, would not want to associate with us in any manner, but yet take from us our music. You love our food. You love the way we dance, right? But would never interact with us. And when it used to be this thing where you would hear somebody in conversation say, well, Derek, I'm not racist. My best friend is Black. Really? And you know what our response would be? Have you seen the inside of their kitchen? Have you broken bread with them? The African American community, the Black community, is the only race that accepts anybody else that comes in. We're the ones that you can go down to Mississippi and say, man, I heard stories about Mississippi, but you can go down to Mississippi and my family will be like, Amundo, your family now. We sit down, we break bread. But could you do the same for me? Could you take me to your family? Could your family accept me for who I am? And this is what you would see as the divide, is that people of other colors would have a choice. Do I keep my Black friends or do I stick with what I was grown up with? And that is very hurting for us, right? To see people do what we call code shifting. You're my friend only in the daytime, but then when you leave, as Sister Michelle said, I'm a ninja. That's the word we're gonna use today. You talk about me behind my back. You don't take up for me when you're supposed to. But yet, when we see you, we treat you like family. Because once you're in with us, you're in for life.
So the impact of that, how it shows up. Everybody's discriminating against you. That shows up in our young people and even our older people having low self-esteem, thinking that they have no value. They buy into that. And so I'm going to repeat what I said in my introduction, why it was so important in the years of my upbringing to hear those affirmations of, I am somebody. I'm young, gifted, and Black. I am somebody. So those things are reinforced. We should reinforce those things so that we can block out all of that chatter and learn to cope and deal with the impact of everybody discriminating against Black people.
Yeah, I definitely would piggyback on that. And I think, Black people are always the first in many ways to pave the way when it comes to human rights, when it comes to civil rights. You spoke to this earlier, Edmundo, and we welcome other people to join us in this. We're always fighting because we always know that's the only way to make progress. I think the other, biggest problem is that other cultures are oftentimes indoctrinated by, well, not always indoctrinated by the dominant culture, the racist white supremacist culture, that Black people are not to be trusted, criminals, dishonest, violent, angry people. And that's showing up in the media. This is actually information that's shared with people in other countries so that when they come here, they automatically don't trust us and are told not to trust us. That's very hurtful because I think Black people are very accepting, very welcoming. I could bring any friend home and my family would say, hey, baby, how are you? What's your name? And come on in. And, oh, come on, we're getting ready to have dinner. Get a plate, and would invite folks in from different cultures. That was just part of our culture, is to be welcoming and to break bread, as Brother Derek said earlier, and as Ms. Deborah said as well. But then to not have that returned is very hurtful, and it just continues to make us feel as if we are always looked at as being on the bottom. We don't feel that way about ourselves, but we know that's the way the culture and the environment and this society sees us, at the bottom, that everyone else is preferred before us, right? So those are just my observations.
Thank you. Yeah. Nicholas, anything you want to chime in on this question here?
You know what? I'm actually going to yield on this one. Derek and Michelle and Deborah pretty much got that one covered.
I know. Kari, how about you?
I think in some ways what I was talking about in the last one captures a lot of what I wanted to say about other communities.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Something though that I did forget from the last question was just as we're talking about this, for me, like I said, I'm mixed. I'm at the intersection of two of those identities, and the imposter syndrome for me works both directions sometimes, and I just wish I was more certain about where I stand in my identity earlier on in life, because it would have made that so much less confusing. And I know, that people see me as Black first anyways. I know that. I learned that growing up as I got to be especially older and my looks. Yeah. So I guess, I just come from a very specific perspective of this that just takes all of that same experience and just yeah. I think I'm losing it, so I'm just gonna pass it on.
Ari, it's Miss Deborah. We love you and we appreciate you for being brave enough to share. Your perspective is a little different from the rest of us because you are biracial. I really appreciate you coming here today and sharing that with us because it opens everybody's eyes. We're paying attention, we're listening, and we hear you.
Thanks, yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Deborah. And I think what I hear from all of you in the words that everyone is speaking here, that it hurts, you know, it freaking hurts. It's, you know, it's, you know, in the same way that Derek, I think you were saying earlier, it's like about, you know, being tired of being tired, you know, it's like, you know, tired of like just hurting, of it hurting every time. So it's like, how do I live? How do I survive in a way that to deal with that when I'm so much wanting to receive that which is that I'm open to giving? Like, can it be mutual? You know, can we get it back in this way? You know, can I be held, you know, with the same consideration, with the same humanity? You know, that how you try to show up to being a full human being, a full person. And that has an impact, that weighs on the heart and the spirit.
And I just want to say, piggyback on that too, and say that, you know, it is really hard to wake up every day and look in the mirror and know you're going to go into the world and that people are not going to see you for who you are, for what you bring, for your talent, for your ability, for your heart, your passion, you know, your compassion for others and the good that you want to bring in the world and that you do bring in the world, and have that be basically taken away in other people's minds because they look at your skin and they make the assumptions about who you are. Always having to prove to people that you are capable, intelligent, competent, always being held to different standards, but yet never in other people's minds measuring up, despite how good your work is, never being acknowledged for that work, never being appreciated, not even being paid for your work at the same as other people doing similar work. There are just so many ways this manifests, and it really messes with you. I mean, there's no other way for me to put it into words. It's coming from my heart, not my mind right now. It messes with you. You know, it's a way of dragging you down. And that's why your spirit life and protecting your spirit and protecting who you are as a person is a daily practice. You know, as Brother Derek and I believe Sister Deborah said, staying prayed up, you know, and then hearing from Nicholas and from Kari and how really doing the work in the community and really giving and being passionate about social justice and really trying to uplift people because you know what it feels like to be at the bottom. So, you know, I've run out of words. Those of you who know me know that's rare, but I've run out of words because I could talk on and on, but.
I got you, Michelle, because as you're talking, you know, Emundo, if you look, you know, when we started, I yield and I gave it to Dr. Michelle and Sister Deb first, because there is the age difference all the way down to Brother Kari. But here's the thing. What we experience hits us all. It hits our forefathers, it hits our grandparents, it hits our elders. And now even those who are coming up behind us still have to go through this. And we've tried to separate ourselves from that, right? We tried to get our families to a different type of community so they wouldn't have to experience this. And yet racism is smooth, it's a blanket. It just comes out of nowhere and hits people, right? And it even hits you harder when your family hasn't sat around the table to tell you, this is what you're going to experience, right? I come from the South, so I was already prepared to deal with white people. I already knew about them. But see, there's a difference between the whites in the South and the whites in the North and the whites in the Midwest. and the West Coast. In the South, they carry their rebel flag, their guns is in the back of their truck. But guess what? We have an understanding. I don't like you. I don't like you either. But you go anywhere else, you have folks who are your neighbors and they speak to you and wave, but then they're looking for ways to get you out of the community. You have teachers that look at you that are white, looking at Black students and already have put them in this box, telling them in order to pass this class, this is what you're gonna need to do. You gotta come through me. The buck stops with me. You have other students that are looking at Black students like, how did you get here? Or maybe they're not even saying that. Maybe it's just the way that they look at them. They don't invite them to the groups. As Sister Deb said, it's like being on the playground. We're the last one to get picked. Oh, well, Derek, you're sitting there. I guess we'll take you in the group. Come on.
I'm wondering if you all are in a space and a place to tackle the question before that. The question of how does this stuff, like we've all been immersed in this culture, in this society, we've all grown up in it. Like, how does it show up? How does those attitudes, assumptions, belief toward other groups of color like show up within your own community?
I definitely think as Black people, understanding what it's like to feel like you're at the bottom, you know, we tend to be more empathetic, more open. Yet, are there people in our communities that mistrust and have issues with other groups of color? Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a human thing to have narrow and racist or stereotypical ideas about other people. But I do think Black people have more of a tendency to be open and to be accepting of other groups of people. I just think, unfortunately, white supremacy has actually pitted a lot of communities against one another intentionally. It is intentional. It is a way of dividing and conquering. If I can keep this group down and this group down by having them fight each other, that makes my job easy. I could just sit back and watch them fight with some popcorn and control everybody, right? That's really been the way policies, laws, and other things have, you know, been developed. It's been the way that different practices, you know, and how certain groups may be favored over other groups. But then when that group somehow comes out of favor, things flip, right? So it really is a way of dividing people so that all of those people can be controlled. Because if all of these groups of color and our allies, our white allies, because we do have white allies, got together and decided we were going to pull this white supremacist structure down, baby, it's coming down. So how do we stop that from happening? We keep everybody fighting over the little crumbs while we keep the whole pie to ourselves, or while they keep the whole pie to themselves. You understand what I'm saying? That's essentially, you know, how that shows up.
Right on, Michelle. Deborah, anything you want to add to that?
Michelle hit the nail on the head. I don't know if you want to segue into the next question, because
Yeah,
with what she said, what I would ask of everyone is that when you see inequities, when you see discrimination, stand openly with us. Openly. This is not a time for you to have a spirit of fear. Speak out. Take action. If you need us to, we always shepherd the way, to use a phrase that Michelle uses. So reach out. Ask some other people to stand with you, but we need you to open your mouth. They use that phrase in another way. When you see something, say something. We need you to do that. Okay. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Don't just come in a meeting and tell me that you're going to stand in solidarity. I need to see your actions. We don't want to hear any more apologies. We're not accepting apologies. We're accepting changed behavior.
Thank you, Deborah. Let's do it. Let's do a round on this question here. It's in the chat. Like, what is it that you long to see from other folks in transforming systemic racism?
For me, this is what I would like to see, right? And because this type of setting allows us to learn. This is beautiful that you've done this for us. But what I really want 71 individuals that are in right now is to go back to your own social network and start to educate them. When they start to talk about not just Black folks, but anybody that doesn't look like them. As Sister Deb said, I'm gonna need you to raise your hand and be, wait, whoa, we're not gonna talk about Asian Americans like that. I don't get down like that. Okay, you know what? I think we're gonna have to rethink our friendship, right? No, we're not gonna talk about the Latinx like that. That's what when we talk about solidarity, that's what I'm really talking about. If you're gonna jump in the pool, jump all the way in with us. Don't just come put a toe in. Get yourself in and submerge. Matter of fact, how about this? How about you change your social network and once you get some people of color? Here's the thing, at the end of the year, look at the friends that you have. And if they all look the same, then it's time to open that network up and get some new friends. You're not growing. How are you going to grow? How are you going to understand anybody's pain if you don't have a friendship and connection with them? You have got to get out of this bubble and think that, well, if it doesn't come to me, then it doesn't affect me. If you say you're a human being, and for those of you who believe in spirituality and you have a higher power, I'm challenging you. I'm testing you. Don't speak about it. Be about it.
Oof. Oof. Amen to that, brother. Oh. Nicholas, anything you want to chime in on here? This is actually I'm inviting you in on this one because this is important before we're going to transition now. So I want to hear your voice here.
Okay. In my opinion, I think what immediately can be done is when there are movements or there are events or in the media or wherever in your communities that speak to Black oppression specifically, please allow us to speak on our own behalf. If you want to be an ally, put your money behind the organization. That's it, point blank. There's nothing else. And yeah, that's the only way that I feel like things can change.
Thank you, Nicholas. Appreciate that. Kara, you said that you're having trouble with audio, but are you able to? No, we can't hear you. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. And we've only got 18 minutes left, but I want to acknowledge that some folks may have to drop at 4:30. But we started the recording a little bit late, so I'm going to ask that those who can, to hang on for an additional few minutes, if you can be on the hours, because what we want to do now is to give folks a chance to connect about this. So there's 3 question prompts that we're going to ask you to respond to. We're going to put you into triads, and we don't have much time here, so it's going to be just real brief. 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes per person. But we want you to respond with each other in those triads to these 3 questions. First question is, what did you take away today? Like, what did you learn today that was new for you? That's the first one. Second question, what resonated with you? What did you connect with in your own experience about what was shared here today? Very powerfully shared today. And then third, what actions are you moved to take in response to what you heard and connected with today? Okay. Thank you, Don, for getting those in the chat for us. So there you have them. I'm going to put you now into triads. You just gonna have two minutes apiece. And we'll give you a heads up when you switch to the next person. And the panelists, we're going to stay here together, I think is the intention.
Okay.
Oh man, we're right in the middle of a good conversation.
It was getting good in ours, you know?
Yeah, I was just getting good.
Always the case, man. Okay, well, good. This is a teaser because we want to do more of this. So what I would like to do is to invite our panelists just to give their closing thoughts, takeaways for us, and then just do a brief round of some appreciations for some of the takeaways that folks got for that. So, Michelle, you're spotlighted.
Well, I'll go first. I just first of all want to really show how much I appreciate and share my appreciation for the opportunity today to be able to share with everyone, to be able to hear from my fellow panelists. And I've learned and been enriched, just because, I'm a Black person, we are definitely not a monolithic culture or community, and hearing from others and learning from others and being able to have the attention of so many people with so many caring thoughts and words in the chat, and just feeling a part of a community and feeling heard and feeling like a lot of people showed up to hear from us today, which, made me feel like our stories and our culture is valued. And I think that for me is what is the biggest takeaway from today.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm just going around to the left, and Deborah, your beautiful smile is up next.
Okay. In addition to Michelle, I want to thank you all for showing up today and listening and taking to heart the things that we shared with you today. Sometimes it's not that easy to show your inner self, exactly who you are, but I saw some friendly faces out there. I appreciate the hearts and the love. I have something on my to-do list for this evening because of Kari. And so, Kari, you when you spoke about being biracial, we have some biracial folks in my family. Cousin Debbie's gonna give them some love in a different way when we're off this Zoom. I'm gonna be calling to check on them. So that's my takeaway from today, to check on the people that I love and the experience that they're having, and to continue to let them know that I love them and my colleagues as well. So again, I appreciate you being here today, and I'm going to be here for you next week.
Right on, right on. Thank you, Deborah. And Kari, you happen to be to Deborah's left. Final thoughts, appreciations?
I'm gonna start with Deborah, of course. Thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. And the takeaway from the group that we had was just that there are people who, when they come to see and experience people like us, that they can find empathy again, and it's great, right? And that's very hopeful. So I appreciated that too. And yes, I appreciate everybody here for coming together for this conversation and listening to people. Yeah.
Thank you, Kari. Thank you for stepping in. Kari was there and he stepped in at the last moment, and really, really just appreciate you, man. And Nicholas, I don't see your little square there, but I want to make sure you've got an opportunity if you're still here.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, brother.
First of all, I want to say thanks everybody for allowing me to, speak my experience, and thank everybody for coming. I haven't done this before. My first time, really speaking to people, people, that are interested in, in this aspect. And I really appreciate Edmundo for, pushing me to, kind of take, hang on one second. Sorry about that. Yeah, I want to thank you for pushing me to, kind of like take that first step into, into action. And I actually look forward to seeing seeing and hearing everybody else in the audience and on the other panels in the coming weeks. And yeah, thank you guys. That's really all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, and so appreciate, man, with everything that you've got going. You've got such a packed schedule and you still showed up here. Big love. Thank you. Derek, sir, speak.
Wow, thank you. First, thank the host, Mundo. Thank you for creating this space for us. Our technical advisor behind the scenes, Dr. Lee, and my panelists. What you heard today was the truth. And when you say you really want to hear the truth, you got to be prepared for it. This is our truth. This is who we are. I cannot change my color. I'm gonna be Black 24/7. But here's the thing. If you truly want to get to know me, do not let this conversation that we had today just die. Go home, marinate on this. Ask yourself, wait a minute, what am I doing to support my brothers and sisters of color? Am I the one stepping up on their behalf? Matter of fact, pick up the phone and call them and check, hey, I saw you on that panel, you showed out. Look, you said some stuff that got on my heart, and I just wanted to reach out to you and say, what can I do? How can I help you? I feel your love. I feel your pain. And with that, I say thank you so much for allowing us to be here.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciation to the whole panel again for being the first one stepping up and getting this rolling. So much appreciate the heart, the intelligence, the care, the capacity that you all bring to the table. I want to thank all the relatives who showed up today to hold this circle and to hold this space for us. It matters a lot. I mean, one of the things that, again, I want to just circle back around to the framework of ethnic studies is a part of our history is working together. Part of our history going back is our solidarity with each other. You spoke to this, Derek, other folks have spoke to it. And this is this is the moment. This is the moment for, in the way that you called out, this is the moment for us to step up for each other, to be with each other. Well, thank you all. See you next Friday for our Asian American brothers and sisters and family, all of them come all together. See you then. Thank you again. Corazón. Heart.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.